Cool. Welcome back to another episode, live episode with my buddy Chris Maher for Don't Panic. Chris, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, dude? How are you? It's
You
it's
said
been a
your last
while.
name wrong again. God
It's
damn
all
it.
right. It's
Mayer.
Mayor. Yes. It's
Old
okay.
habit.
It's all right. You did it, and then I never corrected you for months, so that's
Yeah.
partially my fault.
Then it's your fault. I
It
feel
is my
better now.
fault.
It's
Yeah,
your fault.
fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been a while. We've been busy as hell, and we were gonna do this earlier, but half my basement was a sponge for about an hour because of all the rain. So apologize for that, but we're live, we're back, and it's gonna be fun. We're gonna shoot the shit, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun time.
Don't apologize for people for having bad luck. It's not your fault. Honestly, I feel bad for your parents, man. That sucks. And to Frankie.
Frankie too,
our writer's
shit.
got the same problem. So
Yeah,
to anybody
it's-
else in Northeast Philly that happened to, sorry. That sucks. Gotta be careful of that weather.
It's a shame because I went downstairs to change the laundry, and I'm like, this doesn't look right. I flicked the light on, and it's just like a monsoon.
This doesn't look
I'm
right.
like, yeah, no, this doesn't look right. I'm like, what is happening? I flicked the light on. I'm like, holy shit! And I was
Yeah.
like, Mom, the basement's
man,
flooded.
That sucks. Yeah, it looks like there was no water escaping. It was just kind of building in your backyard.
I don't know, dude. The water was so high, like it looked like there was a pool in my backyard.
Yeah, you guys are gonna have to have that door open just to air the place out. Ugh,
Yeah,
it's
we
gonna
got
suck.
fans down there. I had to sit down there for like an hour, and like we got one of those the big shock vacuums, and I sat there and just went over it. Like I probably went over it like 300 times, just constantly. So
Yeah,
that was
it's
fun.
gonna take time, dude.
Yeah,
So that
it's
sucks.
still wet and everything too. So
Well, shout out to your dad if
yeah,
he joins us.
No, he'll join us. The OG. He just texted me, "Are we live?" I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then he's probably gonna call me an idiot because I didn't send him the thing right away.
There you go, Dad.
Yep.
Great.
Great.
All right. Well, let's get started. We have some comments already. You said let's start with the comments, right? You suggested, Chris.
Yeah,
So let's start. Yeah, let's start with the first one, I guess. Here, I'll
This
put
one's
it
from
up on
Renee, just giving us some support.
Flyers.
This is another one from Selkie about the Duncan Keith gig. Good trade. Oilers didn't give up much for Keith. The big question is, do you protect Jacob Voracek?
So, well, first off, let's comment on the trade first. Let's take it in two parts. So we'll talk about the trade. My thoughts on the trade is I love Duncan Keith. The guy has 3 Stanley Cups. He's one of the best defensemen in the league, or was one of the best defensemen in the league. Probably has more in the tank than people realize. He's somebody the Flyers definitely could have used for sure, especially last year. The guy probably has more to give than we realize. I do like what they gave up for him. I don't think it was too high. Probably a guy they were at risk of losing anyway, potentially. And overall, I think they got another player. They got Soderlund. I didn't get to look him up, but they got another player in that trade.
There's another prospect, right?
Yeah. So, and it was a conditional pick, so not bad at all. And I bet that condition probably has something to do with playoffs. So I didn't get to look into it. If you want to look it up while I'm talking,
I'm attempting to right now.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't get it, it's not a problem. We're not news, so it's all good. Yeah. So I love Duncan Keith. I think that's what Edmonton needed. They have some good young defensemen there. I know Clefbaum might be out the entire year. He has injury problems.
He was out the entire year. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he might be out still going into next year potentially. I heard that. I don't know if that's true though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that team they lack veteran leadership, just similar to the Flyers do, and they lack depth.
Yeah,
I think.
I was talking to Jamie. I didn't mean to cut. I'm sorry. I was talking to Jamie earlier, and he was like, "Yeah, they needed a winner in their locker room." I was like, "Exactly."
That's I mean, every team, every championship team needs that. And again, I think it's to take a little bit of the weight off of Connor McDavid. Essentially, Duncan Keith is most realistically your captain. If you really think about it, he's going to be the leader of that locker room. Not that people don't listen to McDavid, but I've said this from day one. Giving him the captaincy when he first showed over shows that you are an unorganized franchise without any leadership in your organization. That is a humongous problem. I don't care if he's the best player on the team. He's a child. You do not put him as not only the face of your franchise. Yeah, you don't put him as the face of your franchise and make him captain. Yes, you can do it, but he better have veteran support around him, which he did not have. So you just kind of set him up to take a bunch of shit. And I love Duncan Keith. I think it's a good move for them.
Yeah, I do too. That the full deal. This is from Pierre LeBrun. It says Duncan Keith and Tim Soderlund for Caleb Jones at a 2022 third-round pick. The 2022 pick will become a second-round pick if Edmonton wins 3 rounds in 22 and or 3 in the 22 playoffs, and Keith is amongst the top 4 in the Oilers' D time on ice during the first 3 rounds.
That's a hell of a condition for the Oilers because it's a win for them if he does that.
Right.
Like a second-round pick for a guy who makes that kind of impact.
Right.
That's a good trade.
That is. And that's the thing. I mean, we were talking about it the other day, I think over the phone. I don't know if it was text or over the phone, but it is the Oilers' time to do something. I mean, they have
plenty of cap space.
They do. I think they have $16 million still in cap.
Yep.
Or it actually might be less now, but I did just read something that let me try to find it now.
They're not done making moves, most likely.
Yeah, this is from David Pagnotta. He said, curious how the Keith acquisition affects /stalls and Adam Larson signing for the Oilers. Keith does have a no-movement clause, which he agreed to waive for Edmonton, but that also carries over. It's possible that he waives it for the expansion draft, or the Oilers and Larson wait until after the draft to finalize / sign a new deal.
I think they wait.
Yeah, I think they wait. And if they're going to re-sign them. I know there's been rumors of
but there's a risk.
Yeah, right.
Well, there's a risk in they could also deal Larson. I mean,
that's the thing because
and pick up another guy in free agency.
There's been some rumors that he could be moving. I know there's been talks of could he come to the Flyers or any other team, but one thing about that too is what people don't realize is Caleb Jones is Seth Jones' brother. And
I wanted to bring that up
next. Chicago. So the Hawks have kind of been I think the Flyers and the Hawks were in the lead run for Jones, but per Elliot Freeman on his last 31 Thoughts the other day, the 13th thought, the Seth Jones of Philadelphia discussions appear off for now. The Flyers can't get the commitment they want from Jones. That's his right to wait unless he's certain, but Philly won't make the deal without it, which is kind of obvious because why?
That's what I would. Exactly. They wouldn't. Not for a guy like Sanheim. You're not moving Sanheim because that's it would take Sanheim or Myers. And if they're going to protect him in expansion as well, they need to know that they're not going to lose him. There is the option of moving him later, which I don't think is terrible. I think Dan Silver brought that up, I think, initially, and then I was talking to Bill Meltzer about it. But I don't think it's a terrible option, but then you set yourself up again to be under pressure to move this guy, where if you're going to make a move this summer, why not make the move for the guy who will commit to your team?
Right.
And
the Flyers don't have the time to be looking at like a 1 year, 2 year kind
of thing. I don't think the Seth Jones trade is under the tenuous timeline that a lot of other trades are under. Like, I don't really think that Columbus is like rushing to trade him. And I don't think the Flyers have to make the decision right now. I do think, to your point though, the Caleb Jones thing, that is, I would say maybe that does, maybe, we don't know.
Because think about it, like I saw a comment earlier. I didn't mean to cut you off. I saw a comment earlier, and it was like, why would somebody not want to play or not want to play in the city that their dad coaches, like that? And then Colby Cohen was like,
I saw
that. Play, he was like, wouldn't you rather play with your brother? Yeah, which that makes sense. I can understand that.
I think they're both, and I would even say that the Caleb Jones things might even be an increase.
To play with your brother or to play in the same city your dad coaches is kind of like, you know what I mean?
And the benefits are very similar. You know what I mean? Like, you come here, you have some elite players to play with. You go to Chicago, you have some elite players. They're both big cities. You know what I mean? They're both going to pay you.
Big markets.
You're definitely going to be.
He's going to get top 2 minutes.
Here's the one thing I will say: you come here, you play with Ivan Provorov, and Ivan Provorov is better than anybody Chicago has currently as far as young defensemen. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing. That's the only advantage I would say we have.
He's also closer to a club.
Potentially, but there's a lot of stuff has to go right. Chicago is more in a rebuild, I would say.
On paper, though.
But we don't know. Like, they still have their 2-star players, but I do think they're more in a rebuild. I don't know.
Because it's weird though. Like, they openly admitted they're in a rebuild, so why would they really even be in for Jones?
Correct. Yeah, great point. Right? They even wrote a letter to their fan base to let them know. I mean, just because Jones is young, dude, you're not trading. That's my point. You're not trading for Jones for a year. Mm-hmm. Chicago, I don't know why Chicago would do that either, because it's not like he's going to be cheap.
No.
You have to move something good to get him.
He's going into the prime of his career. The one thing I do want to mention before we get too far off topic, you know how you said you brought up the Oilers cap. They currently have $11.5 million in salary cap space going into 21-22, and if Clefbaum is done for the season, that's another $4.167 million they can utilize if needed via long-term injured reserve.
I don't know if he's done for the season, but LTIR to start the season, and he can figure it out later. I think they might be buying out their goalie too. What's his name?
Smith Koskinen.
Koskinen. I think they might be buying out Koskinen, and Smith they're negotiating with.
That's the one thing I look for them as kind of a problem is their goaltending. Like both their goalies are over 35.
Yeah. Koskinen?
Yeah, he's like Koskinen? I think he's like 36.
No.
Maybe
no, I don't think that's younger. I think he's young. I think he's young, dude. I thought he was young. I thought he was in his 20s. He's 32. Oh, okay. Because when he signed that contract, he had like his best year or whatever. I thought he was like in his like mid 20s. I guess he was in his late 20s when he signed that contract.
Yeah.
He was probably 29 or something like that.
He was drafted in 2009 by the Islanders.
Okay. So I mean, he's looking at a buyout, but that was a stupid contract.
Oh my God,
to begin with.
He's 6'7". I didn't realize that.
That was Peter Chiarelli, I think, gave him that contract. And he made bad moves there. That's why he didn't last long. But the defense will help the goaltending. I do think Duncan Keith. I love Duncan Keith. He's one of my favorite players in the league in general. Yeah. So again, to get that guy on your team for 2 years, and even in that second year, if they're not good, they can trade him. You know what I mean? A playoff team will look to move him, especially halfway through the year. You can eat some of the cap. You can maybe even get a first-round pick for him if you have to. Look what we got for Kimmo Timonen, and he barely played.
I know. I don't think his cap hit is that bad.
It's not.
$5.5 million at 30.
People are acting like people are saying he's a bottom pairing defender.
Yeah, because they're looking at his analytics.
Yeah, on a
which
team
is the
that
problem.
didn't do too well.
Not good, right?
Yeah. Well, Edmonton's not good defensively.
Exactly. Chicago's team D is atrocious. So it's like,
we'll see. I mean, look, it's not a risk-free move, but I think it's risk that Edmonton can take. And I really don't think it's that big of a deal, especially if the cap doesn't stagnate as long as people think it does. Yeah. And that's, I mentioned, we'll talk about Voracek in a second, but that's what I was saying about the OEL thing. I brought up the proposition of switching OEL and Voracek. OEL comes with a long cap hit. It's for 6 years. But if the cap stops stagnating, right, and it starts going up again, all of a sudden that $8 million is not as big of a deal. It's like $6 million now for a defenseman.
Yeah,
so, but again, those are risks. Those are risks. But we need to allocate our money from forward to D, and I really believe that's why they want to move Voracek more than anything, reallocation. But anything else you want to say about Keith? Let's tie that one up. Actually, I don't want to.
No, I agree. I don't have too much more to touch on. I mean, I think it's good for the Oilers. I mean, if you think about it, I think they had a pretty solid year defensively. I know Barry had a pretty I guess
he had a rebound year. Let's be honest, he had a rebound year.
Toronto.
And look, exactly. He did really poorly in Toronto. Did better with Edmonton.
Mm-hmm. I don't think many of the fans would agree because, again, they watch the Oilers every night. We don't, but I don't know.
They're not very good defensively as a team. They do have a defensive coach, though. Yeah.
No,
Dave Tippett.
I do like some of their.
I like him.
Their defensemen. Nurse is very good.
Yeah, he's great.
Mm-hmm. And his uncle is Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, my whole thing with the Seth Jones and Philly thing it wasn't so much that his dad coaches here. I think that's like part of it, but it was more of like, okay, if your dad coaches 22, 23, 24, 25, 26-year-old male athletes,
especially
high-level athletes,
Joel Embiid,
what are the odds that he doesn't know them?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking in my head. I was like, maybe they're friends.
Yeah.
Actually, Ben Simmons was at the bar that I was at the other night. Really? Yeah, Morgan's Pier. There, it's like him, and they always go there. They had to surround him with security to bring him in. Poor bastard. But again,
those guys can't go anywhere.
Yeah, I know. But especially Simmons right now, people are like, they hate him right now. But again, so Simmons and Jones are not that far in age. I'm like, what are the likelihood that he met these guys? That maybe they could get scared away. But I think people have to realize, like, this is one of the wealthiest, largest cities in America. So is Chicago. Don't get me wrong. That's not always for everybody, having said that. But there shouldn't be a huge problem with players coming here. There wasn't in the past. And if there is a problem now, it's most likely a combination of media, which is what Toronto deals with, and a lot of players refuse to sign in Toronto.
With the Eagles, and you could kind of.
But also, like, the ownership needs to treat their players well. And that's what, like, I talk about that a lot. You don't want to just throw athletes away. That's how you build bad reputations with players. Yeah. But the Flyers need to make moves. They have to make a move. So if Seth Jones is not in the card, they better be going aggressively against somebody else. You know me. I'm not like go all out, but you have too many assets.
It can't be another offseason where Fletcher, like, he's doing a bunch of shit, but he doesn't. He swings and he misses. Like, it can't be that again, like it was last year.
I agree. I still don't believe he swung last year. I don't believe.
I think he did for Brody, but the no move clause.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He didn't go for Brody.
No, he did. Like, I think he went for him, but he got
yes. But I'm saying you're out.
Yeah,
because you're not right. In the future, no move clauses are not as big of a deal after expansion. Yeah. It's not the worst thing ever. It's really, that's what I was saying. Because of expansion, I do believe that Fletcher just went.
I'm telling you,
I'm not doing it.
By fucking Wednesday, there's gonna be like, I'm just waiting for like 8 different things to happen at one time.
I don't even know if the Flyers might wait for after expansion. Like, why not?
That's what I mean. I think they're gonna wait for
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot the date already. Yeah. I think moves are coming, man. I really do. If Seth Jones doesn't
next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, next Wednesday.
No worries. But I think everybody's on the same page with that. Look, and this is something I talked about with Bill Meltzer too, because they brought up the idea of maybe Sean Couturier doesn't want to resign here if we're not heading in the right direction. One, I don't think that that's the case. No. Having said that, let's just say it is. Don't you think it's even more important that Chuck Fletcher makes a move then? To be like, I'm not going to lose my best center too.
Right.
Now we're in a rebuild. We're in a rebuild.
Right. And we were talking about it earlier with Drew. Like, what contract does G get, and what about Coots?
I think G is getting probably a long term to keep his cap hit down. But my get, because in the open market he'll get more, but I think he's going to want to stay here. And I think it was on Sirius. He had an interview where he said Giroux can stay here as long as he wants.
Yeah.
And honestly, I truly believe that, and that's my attitude with Giroux, is that it's going to be like a Joe Thornton thing until he's like 40, and if he wants to keep playing at 40,
like
and that's their call. I don't know if we can afford to sign Giroux when he's 39, 40, but you sign him till he's 39.
Yeah, and then he starts just getting like 1-year deals at like league minimum, like Spezza or something.
Exactly. I think he'll be 34. Yeah, he should be 34 when he needs a new deal. So that, I mean, at that point, you have a 4-year deal to give him.
3 years at $7 million.
What'd you say?
Pavelski at 35 got 3 years at $7 million
on the open market.
Yeah, but still.
So, well, it does matter.
Yeah,
open market matters. But here's what I'll say. So that's what I was saying. To keep his cap hit down, you give him 4 years.
Yeah,
and you give him 4 years at probably 5.5. Like that's what I could see Giroux getting. It could be 6. Yeah. But again, I'd rather have Giroux at that money than Voracek.
Yeah.
Or
dude, if Voracek made $2 million less, nobody would be bitching like this.
No, but
no one.
I don't.
Not a single person.
I think he would
50 to 60 points average.
So let me ask
$6 million would not be bad at all.
Let me ask you this.
Would make more than him.
Well, let me ask you this. And I think Jacob. I want to remember his name because he's one of my viewers. Let me get it right so I'm not an asshole, because he brought this up to me, but I have brought this up to you in the past as well. Yeah, Jacob. He brought this up to me earlier today about trading Voracek for Tarasenko. Now Tarasenko's got a risk, right? Yeah. I talked about this a while ago.
I said this to Jamie today.
Well, I brought this up to you. I brought this up 12 months ago. Yeah. You know, when we were talking about trading Voracek. Mm-hmm. This is an opportunity where I think it might be possible because Tarasenko wants out, and we might have to eat some cap on this trade to make it an even swap.
30%?
No, probably maybe just $1 million and take $8 million for Tarasenko. But Tarasenko,
wouldn't 30 be $1 million, or is my math off?
I don't know.
Or would it be 25?
I didn't do the.
I'm horrible at math.
I didn't do the math, so I don't want to assume that you're wrong. Now that you're saying it out loud, but my thought is, no, it would be a lot more. 30% of 8 million would be like two something, I think. Anyway, but that the idea though is that Tarasenko has injury problems, so it is a risk, right? Yeah. But we could use a shooter. Right.
That's my thing. And it's two players on power play. I mean,
having said that, I don't think that that's our biggest want as a team. Like I truly believe that what Chuck Fletcher is going for is defensive help, forward and D.
Yeah, I think once he could get the defensive help, why not add it? Like, once that's done, like why not? Like,
well, that's why I said I think expansion draft really matters because JVR will be exposed. Ghost will be exposed, and the amount of defensemen available, I'm not as confident now, just because there's so many defensemen who are going to be available now in this expansion draft that a guy like Voracek does become more valuable. Anybody who's a center becomes more valuable in general because it's going to be lighter on centers. So realistically, it's like we hope that they take one of the forwards. If they don't, then we adjust to that. If they really want to get rid of Voracek, they'll have to get creative with it. And there aren't a ton of defensemen with large contracts that are above 30 in the NHL. Like Brent Burns is a name that's out there, but Brent Burns is not great defensively, but he's a great attitude in the back. That's why I brought up OEL. And I don't even know if they want to move OEL, but they're moving on from Kempfer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I've heard Connor Garland too.
There's going to be a lot of good players available this offseason.
I would love Garland.
There's going to be a lot of guys available.
But the problem with getting Garland is you kind of have a smaller Allison at that point. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think we're going after any wingers, man.
No, I don't either. But I'm just saying, like, well, if they're getting Tarasenko, he's a winger.
But that's like I was thinking more in free agency. I meant. Tarasenko, that's also why I don't think it's going to happen. But
right, well, I think Garland's a UFA.
Right. Yeah. So, and then that's what I mean. UFA wise, to be honest with you, what I think will happen UFA wise is I think that Chuck Fletcher will look to make the move before UFA.
I think for agency they get a backup goalie
for sure. Yes, goalie and bottom six. Maybe they'll get better than a fourth line center. You know,
I want a Craig Smith this year.
Yeah, Craig Smith would be cool. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. But that's the type of guy we need. We need a guy who's, to be honest with you, even another great. Yeah, we talked about him. Boyle. I think he's getting up there in age, but
he's 36.
I wouldn't be. Yeah, he's up there. But again, we're looking for a guy who can really play D, can be physical, good in the locker room.
Boyle checks all those boxes.
I mean, honestly, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. I mean, he's not very good offensively. He's a fourth line guy.
Yeah.
But a guy with that attitude who can play defense like that, we really need that kind of guy. Like, we can't have Connor Bunnaman as fourth line center anymore. And it's not knocking Connor Bunnaman.
You can't have a rookie at the fourth line anymore.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a role for a rookie.
Like Patrick's not a fourth line player.
No. I believe that. I honestly think that's why they're getting rid of Voracek.
Yeah.
Too many wingers.
Yeah. And you could even look in the prospect system too. I mean, there's just too many wingers.
And Frost will be back. And then you already have the injury to Hayes. So they're gonna have to bring in a veteran center. Even when we had Filppula here, and I know people didn't like Filppula. People are so harsh on veteran guys who just play their role. I do not understand it. It's like Filppula. If they don't come in. Exactly. I love him. Like, if they don't come in and light the world, they're not here to light the world on fire. Yeah. That's not what they're here to do. They're here to settle the locker room, to win face-off, to block shots, to be stable, to be consistent. Even Yuri Laterra. But to be honest with you, even Yuri Laterra was not a very good player by the time he got here. He just was not.
Yeah.
He still wasn't necessarily like, he wasn't out of position. He didn't take a ton of bad penalties. He was just slow as bricks, and he wasn't very effective offensively at all anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is a good one.
It wasn't worth his money. If he made less than, I mean, he's gonna be expensive. But
and Tampa's a team you should attack. They're a team. I mean, they have to get. They already know they have to get rid of guys.
I want to go after McDonough.
I know
that would be my number one target. But you'd have to move probably Phil Myers in that trade. You'd have to move Phil Myers for an aging McDonough.
You might have to move
potentially, but
instead of Myers.
But really, what they're trying to get out of is a cap situation.
Yeah.
Sanheim will require more money, and he's not locked up. Myers is locked up for multiple years at a very reasonable contract.
Yeah.
So that's why I said Myers.
They honestly have like 3 number 1. You could even get Chernak.
Yeah, but he's not. McDonough is a legit number 1. I mean, obviously Hedman's the best defenseman in the league, but then you have a number 1 after him, and then you have Chernak. He's probably going to be exposed. That's what I was saying. Unless they trade McDonough, but then they have to cover whoever they trade for too. So it complicates things no matter what. Well, Blake Coleman would be a very interesting pickup. He's gonna be expensive in my opinion.
He's expensive when Tampa got him.
Well, to trade for, but he's a UFA. Mm-hmm. So I think he's probably gonna get at least $4.5 million a year.
No, but what I mean is they gave up a first for both those guys, Gaudreau and Coleman.
Yes, late first round picks, but yes,
but still,
we're talking about a top 13 pick for us.
Yeah,
in a weird draft year though.
Right.
So it's not like, I mean, dude, they'd be great.
Gold.
One of them would be great, but we might not necessarily need the ones that are like. We get so caught up in like the big name players, you know what I mean? But the reality is that there's other players who can be like Barclay Goudreau. People didn't know that he was going to be this level of impact. Maybe Blake Coleman, he had a great
representation. The Sharks.
That's what I'm saying is like that we have to rely on our scouts to be like, okay, look at what Vegas did. Here's a perfect example, right? They looked at players around the league that were in like third line roles, right? That they're like, if we elevate this guy's role, I think he can do more, right? Like Carlson, like Tuck, right? Yeah. These guys, as soon as they came to Vegas, they were forced to elevate their role, and they lived up to that. That's what we need to find. And some of those guys are going to be UFA. Some of those guys are going to be available through trade. But the Flyers have the assets and the money to do this stuff. It's not easy, but it's all possible. But again, I think until the Flyers get that defensive help, and if they can't find it, they'll go get an offensive guy. I don't see big moves coming.
No.
Like, I think priority number 1 is fix this D. And then from there, now you can be like, okay, the D is fixed. Now I can get cute. Like, now I can make – because you have so many assets to move.
Moves, it's like, oh, shit, they got this guy,
Yeah. And you still – go
like people were kind of taking this whole cap thing, like, out of control. Like, they have $13 million in cap space right now. They have 2 guys that are going to demand a good chunk of money, but not a lot, and that's Hart and Sanheim. That's it. The other guys, we don't even know if they're going to.
Patrick won't get. Yeah, and Patrick wouldn't get a much anyway. Yeah.
You have Porinsky, who they probably won't resign.
I think he'll walk. Yeah, I agree.
Patrick.
I think he'll either resign or get traded. Right. So.
Yeah. Who was the other one? Morin, and he's a shoo-in at the 7-day.
I'd be honest with you. I would sign more into a 2-way contract. I think he would take it. I think he maybe not a 2-way, but I would sign to be AHL guy. I don't really see the issue. I think he would do it. I think he'd want to stay and rehab, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would. His attitude is something we need in the organization, so that's why I would sign him.
Hyman, put that up?
Yeah, I put that up. Zach Hyman. I think this is an interesting one. From what I understand, Zach Hyman is not coming back to the Leafs. That's what I heard as of today. I don't understand why Zach Hyman is going to get so much money. Like, I get that he had a career year. I do get that. But is Zach Hyman better than Blake Coleman? No. Is he better than Tyler Bertuzzi? I don't think so.
I think he is.
I really don't. I think he benefited from...
In 2 years, I'd say Bertuzzi's better.
Well, now. I would say he's better. Potentially he's better today. One guy is playing for one of the worst teams in the league, and the other one is playing for a high-powered offense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Where he
plays with guys like Matthews and Marner, and Bertuzzi plays with Larkin and Mantha, and Mantha's not even there anymore.
Well, I think Hyman would be a great addition. Like, I don't want to talk down on him.
It's another winger, though.
I just don't think he's top priority for us, unless that winger is a guy like Zach Hyman, though. That's the problem. Is that Zach Hyman can play a role that we need, but what are you going to pay $5 million a year, $4.5 million for Zach Hyman?
At that point, you're just wasting money, really.
Then what are you doing with Lindblom? This is what I keep saying. What are you doing with Lindblom? Well, why do we have Wade Allison then?
Lindblom will play on the fourth line.
It's like
that's what I mean.
We're not. That's why Voracek is being moved to begin with, is because we have too many wingers, and we can.
I hate that you're saying it. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm not too happy about it, to be honest. I said that to Bill Meltzer too. I was like, is it bad that I don't want to see him go?
I just don't want to watch this team. If they do win a cup in these next years, I can't watch this team win and that man not be on that roster.
Yes, you can.
I'll
call you out on that one.
Yes, no, like I can. You're right, but like I'll be.
Look, I get it, dude. Simone Gagne was my favorite player, and I had to watch him leave and win a cup for another team.
Everybody loves like Lindros, if you watch that, or like Briere, or Richards, or Gagne, or Hartnell. I don't know. And that's me with Jake. Like
absolutely. Look, Jake Voracek for a long time was one of the best right wingers in the league.
Him and G are really the only things that I grew up with.
Yeah, they're the
year I had season tickets. They were like the friggin' dynamic duo of the league.
Yeah, and then
like
Wayne
Jake
Simmons
81 points. Yeah, and Simmons was great.
Without those three guys, we would have been
was the power play. That was the only good thing.
Well, without those three guys, we would have been at the bottom of the league without those three guys.
Yeah.
Like people used to blame them for us not being able to rebuild because they're so good.
10 road wins that year.
Yeah, well,
that's how bad they were.
Yeah, and honestly, people shat on like Amac and Mark Streit and all that. And Amac is not a very good defenseman. Don't get me wrong, but it shows that he wasn't that bad either. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
we have the Matt Dumba comment. Come on, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
You said it before. Like, if McDonald got half the money, he wouldn't have been. The same thing with Gudis. If Gudis and Manning got half the minutes, they wouldn't have been that bad.
Well, Gudis, I mean, he had a very good year before he was traded. Nobody complained about him then. You know, and he got us Niskanen. So
there's Dumba here.
Yeah, Matt Dumba.
Brandon.
Well, let's talk about Dumba real quick before we go on to Granlund. So Matt Dumba, I think there's a chance. I think he's a backup to the Seth Jones because he doesn't do it all, but he's a nice consolation. He doesn't make much money. I think it's absolutely possible to see Matt Dumba on the Flyers. I'm still like leaning towards like whatever happens, we won't see coming type of thing, unless it's like Seth Jones, which is being covered by Friedman. You know, like you really only see it coming if it's like Friedman, you know, like watching it, or LeBron, you know, like one of the big name guys, or Drager. Otherwise, you never see it. Yeah, well, he's retired, but still.
Yeah.
You never really see them coming, but I do think it's plausible. What do you think about Dumba?
I've said Dumba since last offseason.
Right. Yeah, you said him a while ago that you liked him.
I said him.
He's got a great shot.
He does.
A fantastic shot.
He's very mobile in the power play. He's good defensively. He's got great energy.
He's good defensively, but he's
one of those guys that you fucking love him in the room. You can see that in him. Like,
he's got a lot. Yeah, he's got spunk.
Yeah, and with the only tough thing is that the past year the Wild had. Why would he want to leave? Like,
what do you think? Let me look up. How much is Suter making?
Oh my god, Suter! I think it's, I don't know. Chuck signed
making a lot. He's making a lot, right?
A lot of money.
I know. I don't think that they're looking to move him. To be honest, I mean they are. They're open to it. Yeah, he's got a big contract
for the next 4 years.
Okay, like is that a case where we can move Jake Voracek for Ryan Suter?
Yeah, why not?
That's why can't is that a trade that's an option for us, right? They get a year out of they get to keep Dumba, right? They get Voracek, who's still a leader for their team, right? Though Ryan Suter is their captain, I believe, right? So it's like
he's 36. He's got that deal till he's 40.
Exactly. But having said that, you know, you're trying to get out of Voracek. You have him for 3 more years. You want a veteran defenseman. Please not Suter. Joel Fairmeme. Look, I get No, but I get it. I understand why people say that because you see the drop off in their capabilities, but you have to remember, like, that is on one team, you know? Okay, this year he had 3 goals and 16 assists in 56 games, but the previous year he had 8 goals and 40 assists in 69 games. Like, it doesn't mean his career is over. Well, Chris Pronger came here at 35, and he was immensely big addition, and that is Chris Pronger. But Ryan Suter is not a throwaway guy. This was one of the best defensemen in the league for a long time. And if you're trying to move cap out, and again, you have to add the fact that there is a rising cap coming in the future. You know, you have to that might be what we end up with. It might not be Seth Jones. Yeah. It might be some older defenseman who's stable and good at what he does and kills penalties and plays with Provorov and lets Provorov be a rover.
Sounds like Ekman Larson too. You can move Jacob for one for Ekman Larson too.
I would say this is even better for Ekman Larson. Makes more money. He's younger though. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if they're actually open. He's their top 3 defender and their captain. So
if they want to get rid of Kemper.
And that's what I was saying, dude. They're broke.
First round. They don't have a first round pick.
Yes,
and they're broke either. Yeah.
Yeah, they're broke.
I was talking to Jason Martinez. He's like, well, he's like, I don't want that contract. Well, you can.
Yeah, that's what Meltzer said too.
Yeah, you can swap
it. It's 3 years addition. I don't understand, but he's 29. If you signed him,
you can get him to retain money too.
But hold on,
Coyotes wouldn't.
Dougie Hamilton is 1 year older or 1 year younger, right? He's 28.
He at least average wants $8 million.
Probably we'll get $8.5 million. So you're making the same amount. He's 1 year and he's going to get an 8-year deal.
I mean, it's not the same player, but it's still a very good defenseman.
Oliver Ekman Larson was a better defenseman in his prime than Dougie Hamilton.
100%. 100% agree.
So there's that. And Dougie Hamilton played on a good defensive team with a lot of defensive support. Where's Oliver Ekman Larson this past couple of years did not, right? But in the past he did.
Yeah.
Well, and then in the past he did, and when he did, they were one of the best defensive teams in the league. Having said that, I really like Dougie Hamilton too. I'm not talking him down, but I'm saying that there is a downside to both of these. Don't you see what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Dougie Hamilton for 8 years at $8.5 million is still a risk.
It is, yeah.
At least you get Oliver Ekman Larson for 6.
It doesn't matter what player they get. They could get Jones, Hamilton, Ellis, Ekholm, Ekman Larson, Suter.
I would love Ryan Ellis.
Whoever you want to say, right? That one guy is not going to change how they play on the ice. Unless they all play
it has to be a
team defense. It has to be them as a team, not just the one guy.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I will say that the one guy I was talking to Isaiah. Well, I was talking to Isaiah about this prior to this. You know, the 07-08 year, right? So we did 06-07. That was the low point. The Flyers were the worst team in the league. And this is what I was saying. This is why I think rebound is within range. We were the worst team in the league. We added Briere, Hartnell, and Timonen.
Finals.
Yes. So I'm saying we don't even need to do that. Why don't we just add Niskanen? Or I'm sorry, why don't we add a Timonen? Right? And another guy who doesn't have to be as good as Hartnell, but a guy who brings what Hartnell brought. Hartnell was a physical energy guy.
Essentially what you're doing is you're bringing in a Timonen, and you're shipping out a Hartnell, and you're bringing something else in. Another goalie.
Yeah, well, we need – and I still believe Hart's going to rebound. I'm still not concerned about him. I know people are.
Dude, I'm not – I don't even know what his final numbers were for this year. I haven't even looked. I don't care.
Yeah.
They're irrelevant. I watch too much of the same shit to where his numbers mean absolutely nothing to me. Nothing.
This analytics stuff is starting to drive me nuts. And Joel Fairmey, I like Joel. I can't say I've seen more of Jones than I have of Dumba or Keith or Ekholm or Ellis or Hamilton. I've seen them all about equal. Okay.
Yeah.
But I will say this: you cannot spell analytics without anal. And these people are, again, like if you become obsessed with analytics, you will find yourself chasing your own tail.
Yeah, well,
analytics they're a measurement in context of what player did.
I look at them as just to see if my eyeballs are telling me the right thing.
But I'm talking about comparing analytics from one player to the next.
Yeah.
Because again, if the team itself is not good, those analytics will not be good. They won't be as good as they can be. The reality is Seth Jones is a big mobile defenseman who's physical with an offensive game. But I will say this, and I said this to you, Chris, over and over again. He's not as good defensively as Provorov. Provorov's peak, and again, he's older than he's older than, in my opinion, I think Provorov is a better defensive defenseman. And he's younger too.
I don't agree.
So I
see your point.
What?
I don't agree, but I see your point.
Okay. But
I think slightly better. Not by much, but slightly better.
I don't think any defenseman on Columbus is better than Provorov defensively. Offensively, I think is where they have the edge on him.
Werenski, yeah.
Werenski's, yeah.
Offensively.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jones is good. Look, the reality is Jones was a minus player in the beginning of the NHL. Provorov was never.
This isn't true at all. That's the stupidest thing I've ever read. Like, that's not.
Well, don't insult him.
But listen. I watched that guy. Literally, the one game I watched him, he played what was it, 62 minutes? That 5 overtime game?
Yeah.
62 minutes?
I mean, I think the kid's a stud. I think every defenseman that was listed there, hold on, I'm pull that list back up.
Dude, I spoke to Aaron.
They're all good. Hold on. I just want to make that these are all good defensemen.
Yeah.
Duncan Keith is at the end of his career. He's got 3 championships. He's one of the best defensemen in the league. Matt Dumba is a great top 4 option. I would say a great number 3 option. If you get him as a top pairing, you're looking good. Mm-hmm. Jones, I think, still has room to improve. He's got it all. Mm-hmm. He's got it just like Phil Myers physically. Yeah. He's got the same physical gifts that Myers has, plus a better offensive game and a better defensive game. Yeah. Ekholm, a really reliable, steady defenseman who has a 2-way game. Ryan Ellis, who has some injury problems, also 2-way, steady, probably better than Ekholm. I would say he is. Actually, no, he definitely is. And then Hamilton, I think, is a player who has always been good, but doesn't have the leadership element that this team is lacking. So that's where the one thing I bring up about Hamilton is not that I think he's a problem in the locker room, but again, we want a guy who can talk to the media, and it seems to me like Hamilton will go take a walk when the media is talking.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say, just because
go ahead,
Aaron is one of my best friends and he said it, that doesn't mean I agree with him. I disagree with a lot of what he says about Jones.
Well, we're allowed to disagree. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's stupid because we don't agree with each other. That's why I'm saying you got to relax. We got to relax with that stuff. All right.
Well, that was
Twitter's
my
bringing out too. Twitter's bringing out too much.
I've had a lot of arguments recently. It really gets my nerves sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. We can't project on each other.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But no, just because Aaron said it, which is fine. He does great work. I read his stuff all the time. I have a website with him.
We're gonna publish him.
We are, yes.
I owe him an edit.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But even still, just because he said it doesn't mean I agree with him. It's the same thing that you were saying earlier, Yariv. Like, just because it doesn't matter who you're talking to, it doesn't mean you change your opinion. Like, sure, we all have our own opinions, and yeah, exactly. I agree to disagree. That's fine. I don't care. This is something that we do have to mention, though. Didn't we stop going for Seth because he doesn't want to sign a long-term deal? I don't think it's that the Flyers stopped. I'll read it again because I did say it earlier in the show, but it's from
talks have cooled down.
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. The Seth Jones to Philadelphia discussions appear off for now. The Flyers can't get commitment they want from Jones. That's his right to wait unless he's certain, but Philly won't make the deal without it. And that's from Elliot Freeman's latest 31 thoughts. That was thought number 13.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. People have to realize there's no rush on this. He's got a year left in his contract. He knows that if he goes to the open market, he'll probably get slightly more money. And he knows that. So people have to realize, and Martinez says this, and he's 100% right. They're going to be playing games with the media, right? Like they're going to tell you, oh, he doesn't want it. Because they know the Flyers want him locked up long term. You know? They know. Maybe he hasn't decided. You know, he probably is like, well, this is going to be where I'm going to live for 8 years. So I want to make sure it's the right place. It's not a knock on Philly. How many other teams are asking for him right now?
Yeah. There's a lot.
And yeah, I want to comment on this real quick. Look, the problem with analytics, and this is not just hockey. It's not just sports in general. This is a mistake that companies make. Like, I'll give you guys a little background. I work in product development for a large corporation. Okay, I worked for Comcast prior to this in product, specifically in product. I was doing pitches to the head of Comcast, the owner of the Flyers. I've been around the guy, and by the way, he's a legitimate hockey fan. 100% legit. He loves hockey. But I'll say this. The analytics, they do not represent truth in the way that you think they do. They are a measurement.
You ever hear Brian Burke talk about analytics?
I'm sure he's old school. I'm sure he doesn't like them. But
it's
look,
not that he doesn't like them. He just hates when people. Go ahead.
Well, let me get this out. So the problem with them is that they only tell you a version of the story. And they're very useful. Nobody should say you shouldn't be using them. Every organization should be using them and tracking their expectations. And you can literally track if a player is progressing or digressing depending on how you're using them. But they do not identify whether a player is good or not. Because you can have a negative analytical portion to your game and still be a great player. You can be a turnover player who has a lot of turnovers and still be a highly effective player.
Like Jones numbers aren't that good. They don't.
They're not. But okay, then why are all these smart hockey people enamored with him?
Yeah, I know.
So you have to ask yourself that question. And again, these are people. They have analytics. They have departments. They
probably
willingly pay money
just about every time he's on the ice.
There you go. And again, some of that is tracked by analytics too. But we don't. But that doesn't,
because the one thing that story doesn't measure is who else is on the ice, what happens. Like it doesn't. It just measures if they got out of the zone or if you know what I mean. Like
yes, it measures some of that, but it also doesn't measure the way the team plays, who the coach is, who his teammates are, what happened to him that year. Does he have any injuries? Like look at Kevin Hayes this year. Yeah. Anybody think that Kevin Hayes looks the same this year? And then you find out abdominal core injury like for 70% of the season.
Yeah.
His analytics would have been terrible, right? In comparison to they were the year before. So it's like, does that mean that Kevin Hayes is not a good player? It's like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, there's so many. And again, you take away your line mates. Not everybody's Connor McDavid that can just speed up the ice and do whatever they want, right? It's like, everything affects your numbers, and especially the way your team plays. Like if you play in front, and by the way, like AV's teams have a history of utilizing goalies in a way that puts a lot of pressure on them. That's happened quite a bit. Yeah. He's a good coach, but again, it's his system. So that'll change the analytics of the players. So that's why you have to measure the analytics within the context of his system, right? You have a starting point of AV, and then you measure within there. So if you take AV's metrics, right, and then compare them to Hackstall's metrics, right, it's like you almost can't. There's different personalities. There's different players. There's different locker room. It's like it is somewhat effective, but you really got to think of it as like at most 80% of the story, and that's probably too much. It's like 50% of the story. So it's not that it has no value, right? But it's also, like I was saying, Chris, Seth Jones is not a franchise defenseman. He's not Victor Hedman.
No. Neither is Hamilton. Hamilton is
right.
Either.
But again, if you put them on our team, without doubt, they're going to help us. Yeah. Like I want to, any of the names that I just read, including Keith, would help the Flyers. You saw the way they behaved last year defensively. That was a team issue. Go ahead.
No, I agree.
I think I cut you off a few times, so sorry.
It's all right. No, don't worry about it. No, I mean, like, what I just understand is like when the opinion from the person is so heavily into the analytics, and then you try to argue it, and they come back with another thing that is based off of analytics. That's where I just don't even want to talk. I don't even want to argue with them anymore.
It can't be pure analytical.
Yeah, because argument. It's like that with people.
It has to be both. Yeah,
and it's not both. It's like I don't even look at them. The only thing I necessarily look at is the Corsi, because it's more of the team thing. It's essentially it's kind of like plus minus, but like.
I do want to get back to this Eric Johnson thing.
Yeah,
Joel. Look, I agree with you. It will be an overpayment. It'll be an overpayment for any of like Dougie Hamilton getting $8.5 million is an overpayment as well for 8 years. That's what we were saying about OEL. It's like, okay, well, at least we get OEL for 6 or Sutter for 5. So none of these guys none of them are perfect defensemen. I honestly, Ryan Ellis, if we can actually get him, but I think they'd be expensive in a trade. I don't really think they want to move him.
Ekholm is actually more hard to get than Ellis,
but only because Ellis has the injury issues, right? because he played a bigger role for their team, didn't he? Ellis, he was like their number 2 guy behind Yossi.
He is, yeah, but like
he'd be perfect. He'd be perfect. I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I would love Ryan Ellis on this team.
You imagine Yossi.
So we have to trade huge assets. We don't have to do that for Hamilton, but we have to compete with him on the open market, Joel. So you have to like he might get $9 million a year. I don't want Dougie Hamilton for $9 million. That would be ridiculous if he does, but because he's not a. Yeah, I don't think so, but he could. You're not wrong. Like if there's just a bidding, I think the luxury is
could happen.
Watch him sign in Seattle.
No, I thought Keith would get traded to Seattle. Honestly,
yeah,
I thought he'd go there and be the first captain.
There's so many defensemen. I think Giordano. Here's another guy. Mark Giordano is gonna be available in exposure. Yeah. I would trade for him. He would be perfect.
Dude,
he'd be absolutely perfect.
And you do an expansion draft, he's always
available.
Pick, yeah, from the Flames, always.
Because they can't not. They have to expose him. Like even Brody, they lost Brody, but he's a very good defenseman. You know what I mean?
He was Muzzin.
Yeah. Look, we need one of these guys, right? Like we didn't get Muzzin, we didn't get Brody. Like so, Eric Johnson. I would be interested in Eric Johnson.
I would like Johnson too,
but
the problem is the injuries.
Exactly, and he's not coming in here to play top pairing.
No, he's going to play top 4.
But I do like him. I mean, we need what he brings to some degree. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, did you want to read something else there, Chris?
Giordano has only has 1 year left. It's this year, this upcoming year.
Oh my God!
And he has a modified no trade clause.
I mean, would you trade the 13th pick for him? Oh, he has modified no trade. We can't do it.
Yeah, unless
he's going to Seattle.
No,
he's going to Seattle.
Giordano, I don't think so. I don't know.
Well, I guess it depends who else they have exposed. Mm-hmm. I think they have a couple forwards that might be available too.
I think
like Mangiapane might be exposed.
Lindholm might be one too.
He's being taken a heartbeat. Yeah. I would trade for Lindholm.
I would too.
I don't know what they would want.
I know. I mean, the
13th pick in the draft.
Monahan's been rumored. Like, I mean, but
Gaudreau is rumored
since like 2016. So
I don't think he's going anywhere.
No,
I think they like him a lot. But again, these are big contracts. I don't think we're going to take a big contract at forward. You know, like Philip Deneau might make it to free agency. I don't think so.
I mean, fuck, if they're giving up Jake, why would they?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. How many, look, we'll go through it again, right? I've done this several times, right? Like, look at the top 9, assuming that JVR, like if JVR gets taken, I don't think they're in as much of a rush to get rid of Jake.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, JVR, Jake, Giroux, TK, Lindblom. Who else am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. Wade Allison, Joel Farabee. Mm-hmm. Like, do we need to add more wingers? Like, we could, but why? We have Nolan Patrick, who's a question mark. We have Kevin Hayes, who's recovering from an injury. We have Morgan Frost, who was injured last year for the entire year. Scott Lawton, who plays everything.
Then
right?
You have Frost.
Right, but
wherever you want to pencil Frost in, you have Legzinski, wherever you want to pencil him in.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how many more wingers do you need?
I mean, fuck, they put more in at left wing, so
yeah, but
then you're adding more to the wingers.
They want that's to your point about the Blake Coleman. Like, I could totally see the Flyers overpaying for a physical guy to play on third line. Mm-hmm. Like a guy who does what Lindblom does, but also will punch you in the face.
Boyle, you mean?
What did I say?
You said Coleman. Did you mean Coleman or did you mean Brian Boyle?
No, Coleman.
Oh, you meant okay. I didn't know.
Coleman. Blake Coleman's gonna be a very expensive player. Yeah. Like after winning the cups, and he's just so effective at what he does. You know what I mean? He's a good player. And Barclay Goodrow, he's also gonna be more like it reminds me of when Chicago won the cup, and then all of their talent went like all over the league. You know what I mean? And they were still good. They were like star players for other teams.
When he went to Columbus.
Yeah. Like Tyler Johnson could get bought out this offseason. I would trade so much for Coleman. You don't need to trade for him. He's a UFA. Yeah. But you have to bid for him. And a lot of teams are going to want him. So you got to realize, like, But I think we'd be interested. I do think we're interested in Blake Coleman, like sincerely. I do think we'd be interested. I mean, you have to be nuts to not try to get him and see what it's just he's not our top need. He's like the second need. So if it's taking away from getting a defenseman,
oh my God,
that's way below what he deserves. Shit. He's going to get $5 million a year.
He's at least $5 million.
Exactly. He'll get 5 for 5, 5 for 6. So which it's not a bad investment for a guy who's that good at what he does.
5.5.
Nick Foligno, I like this. So he has injury problems, but he would be great. For our bottom 6, he would be great. He brings exactly what we need. Yep, 100%. Totally agree. Definitely possible.
The only thing you don't have is playoff experience with him. That's it. You don't have that winner in the room.
Yeah, but he has everything else.
Yeah, he does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and he can play.
But then again, you can add
a lot of injuries
in the room with literally anybody else.
Yeah, I think Nick Foligno is a possibility.
And honestly, really, to go to my point, then really no other guy that we've talked about adding has been a winner. Any of those defensemen we mentioned.
Well, if you really look at the last Stanley Cup winners, there aren't many teams that win the Stanley Cup. It's typically the same team back to back, or within like a year of each other. It's like if you look at Stanley Cup winners, there's not many of them. Yeah. Most teams in the NHL do not have a Stanley Cup. So again, their history at all.
I mean, the Penguins have won 5 in over the last 30 years. So
exactly, they had a couple dynasties within there too. Right, they had the Mario Lemieux dynasty and they had the Sidney Crosby dynasty, and they're still good. Right, they got swept last year, and then they rebounded, and they didn't even look like they were going to
series since they won the cup. But no, I'm full shit. They won the first round against us.
Yeah, but to your point, I mean,
they've been series.
They've been slowly kind of treading into mediocrity a little bit.
Martinez.
Yeah, dude, we didn't mention Martinez. I think he's a guy who might end up here.
He has an injury. He's got a broken foot.
Yeah. He's also not a big dude, but he also has enough size. Like I don't know if size is. Go ahead. So what you want to say?
He's like another. He's like a how do I explain this? Like a miniature downgraded McDonough. That's what I would like.
That's a nice. Yeah. Ryan McDonough would be. Oh my god. Dude. But I do think you have to consider. He's got a no movement clause, but you have to consider.
I don't think
no, not Martinez. Martinez is UFA. I meant McDonough.
Oh, McDonough. Sorry, yeah.
They just need to move. Maybe they might just keep McDonough, dude. They might be like, we're going for a 3-peat. Why not? I'm sure they have good young assets.
I think he's going to be protected. I think.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
Hedman, Sergachev, McDonough. I think Chernak's going to be out. Yep. I think their forwards are pretty easy. It's going to be Stamkos, Point, Kucherov, and Palat. And then I think Sorelli is left out.
People were talking about getting rid of Palat 2 years ago, too. I think he led them in points this year during the regular season.
No.
No, I think he was one of their lead point producers.
He was at least top 5. Well, I want to look this up. Was on $4 million.
Yeah, no, I mean, he'd be affordable. And we were talking about him from last year.
Yeah, we wanted to get him. Winner too. He won 2 cups with the Kings.
Palat had 46 points this year in 55 games. I don't remember. I remember he was in the top of the team because, well, quite frankly, because what's his name was out. Kucherov. Kucherov is their best point producer. He's like the new Patrick Kane. You know what I mean? He's like the guy who just ends up being at the top of the league. Yanni Gord. Oh, he's great too.
Did you hear about this?
That team slammed. What is it? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you see that? Yeah.
Dude, I honestly, the amount of things that has happened to that thing that we don't even know about, probably beyond.
Well, do you know why it's got the white glove treatment? You ever hear that story?
Because people shit in it?
No, it has the white glove treatment after the Rangers won in '94 because it got scratched up so much that it has the white glove treatment.
I mean, do you see how everybody
on it? It's got the white glove treatment because
they're nonstop drunk partying with this thing. What are the odds?
Yeah, and it's heavy going on skate. It's like it's 35 pounds. Like, I mean, it feels like a feather. I'm sure when you lift it, but like, you know what I mean?
You got to realize a lot of these guys are like 6'2", big dudes who work out. Like 35 pounds to me is not too much, and I'm 5'7". So
yeah. No, I know. But I just mean like,
what other topics do we have? I feel like we were ranting about the same stuff. We have more to talk about, right?
Well, we could talk about the draft. There's been some stuff with that. What else?
You texted me something earlier.
I did. I forget.
What was it? Yeah, I'm going back to it too. I love how professional we are.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. After I take a picture of my basement. The Cup Finals. We didn't talk about the Cup.
Yeah. I mean, I've stated I never thought Montreal had a chance. I think Vegas blew it to get there. I don't think the Canadiens were ever that good of a team. I think they're better than I thought, but I don't think that they stood a chance against Tampa Bay. To be honest with you, I don't really think any team did. Unless the team was very stingy. And again, like the Islanders, remember what I said about the Islanders in the beginning of the year, that they seem like a team that'd be perfect to lose in the Stanley Cup Finals. I feel like that was the Stanley Cup Finals before the Stanley Cup Finals was Tampa Bay versus the New York Islanders.
I think Montreal's Cup Finals beating Vegas.
Yeah. But I mean, they beat Vegas. I mean, like Vegas is a really good team. But
Tampa's like another whole other level.
Tampa is just on another level. Like they know
how to play in the playoffs. That's the thing. They know what it takes to win.
Yeah, but they also I went back and I watched some content from when they got swept.
Yeah.
And the amount of people who were they're trade Palat, trade Stamkos. I saw Victor Hedman is not actually that good. He lets people walk into the zone. I saw Vasilevsky is never really going to be the guy. This is why I don't.
This is why we have this podcast.
Yeah, is because look, and this is all my opinion, and people can call me crazy and all that. But I think the likelihood that the amount of talent that's on this team to go from where they were projected to be and where they were to what we saw, which again, rock bottom landed us at 14th. Montreal was 18th in the league. That fact that we played as poorly as we did, and I agree, we played terrible. That's why I'm looking at Joel Fairman. Hedman did have a down year this season.
Gives a fuck.
He's the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Who cares? That's my point. It's like they're gonna have downs. They're going to have downs. There's no player in the league that doesn't. Does not happen. It does not happen. We have to stop being reactive to them. There's no player in the league that is consistently the best player in the league. Even McDavid got shut down. Joel, it's cool. I know you're. I like seeing his comments. It's not a problem. I like that. Keep writing. Don't stop. But it just does not happen. You're going to see good teams struggle. In fact, I said this too. If you do not struggle, you will not do well in the playoffs. If you're walking into easy street, look at Toronto. The first sign of trouble, they didn't rebound. Look at Tampa from the 2 years ago. First sign of trouble, they couldn't rebound. You're telling me Columbus had more talent than them in that series? And yeah, that was a good Columbus team. That was the best team they ever put forward, but they didn't make it past second round. And Tampa Bay was good enough to win that year too. And they got swept. So I'm saying you need mental dexterity. And that's one thing. The Flyers were soft mentally this year. That's why everybody's jumping on them. But it's not a talent issue. It's not like the team is devoid of talent. Travis Konecny didn't go from being an all-star to being useless.
It wasn't a talent issue.
I still don't believe that. Well, that's why I also don't. I don't care if it bothers people that I say this stuff. I don't want to see the Flyers rebuild and all that stuff. Though I do understand when people are like, "Hey, they don't have that little bit extra to get them through the playoffs." I do think that is the case right now, but it doesn't mean that they can't naturally grow that being young players. But you have a problem
consistently playing as a team.
Yeah, Joel Farabee is the only young guy that I see in the in the current Flyers team that has the makeup of a captain, truly a captain. Outside of Coots, but he's not really a rookie anymore.
I say Provorov too.
Yes, but he's not that vocal guy.
You have to be.
To be a captain, I would say yes. I know not everybody thinks that, but I would say yes.
Yeah.
I saw Peter Forsberg's captain here. He never said a word. Then you're leaving it for other guys.
Captain. Jamie Benn's a silent captain.
G is not silent.
You're right.
G talks a lot, and he shows a lot of emotion.
He does, but like, I guess
Peter Forsberg was silent, dude.
Yeah.
Like if you watch Forsberg play, yeah, but like probably not in the locker room.
No, no, none of them are in the locker room. But like to like the media, I know it doesn't matter, but like the media and stuff, they don't like Jamie Benn doesn't say a fucking word to the media.
Yeah, probably doesn't want to talk to him.
No.
Yes, exactly. Here, Joel Fight is quiet to the media. He acts completely different in front of the media than he does in front of the locker room.
Yeah,
like he's like a complete goofball. He talks to everybody on the team. Though I will say, like Shea Weber is a phenomenal captain. I love Shea Weber. I love like that's what we need. You know, like we need a guy like that. And people remember when everybody thought that Subban, and I like Subban. He's not a bad dude, still a good defenseman, but he doesn't. People get enamored with the offensive defenseman. You know, we really do. We become in love with them. Like Cale Makar. I know. Everybody thinks he's incredible. I get that he's extremely talented, but there's no way.
Are better than Provorov right now.
Yeah. There's no way that I think Cale Makar is the best defenseman in the National Hockey League.
No.
Just like I didn't think Shane Gostisbehere was the best defenseman in the National Hockey League when he was lighting it up when he came in here. And again, I know there's a difference there. I get that. But being an offensive dynamo with breakouts and all that is great. But I also didn't think Erik Karlsson was the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. And look what happened to San Jose, who has Karlsson and it's funny. Look, he's a very talented young defenseman, and maybe eventually will be truly the best defenseman in the league. But if you give me between him and a Hedman, it's not even close.
No.
Like all the defensemen in the league are flawed, but still one of my favorite defensemen is Drew Doughty. And their team is not very good. And I love, like, if we can get Drew Doughty, I'd be like over the moon.
Jake for Doughty.
Ecstatic. But Doughty makes like $11 million a year, doesn't he? Does he make something stupid like that, or I forget?
It's 9.5.
9. Oh, okay. That's not as bad, but he makes a lot. You're probably right.
11. Actually. You're right. Fuck.
Yeah, it's 11. Yeah, he's stupid monster contract for Doughty. That's the only reason that
8 years, $11 million
left. He's got 8 years left.
Yeah. No, that was a lot. He's got 1, 2, 3, 6.
Okay.
Damn.
That's a lot of money.
But they're rebuilding.
But
could they take like $3 million?
No, I think they'll just keep him.
Probably.
I think they just keep him.
They did just get Arvidsson, so why would they get rid of Doughty?
I think they're like, again, the same reason why you want a veteran guy. You're going to bring in young defensemen. You'd be like, great, I'll have Drew Doughty and no other veterans because he's elite.
Yeah.
You know?
Just to go
I'd rather pay.
When I covered the first game for Nitty Gritty, there was like a 2-1-1, and it was G and Hayes. And G, they messed up the pass, turnover went the other way. All you hear is G just skates by. He's like, fuck. Like, just screams it. And it's an empty arena by like 45, 50 people. I remember the night before you were there, and you were like, dude, when the Sabres scored, all you did was hear their bench. And I was just waiting for that. Because I don't know if you might remember it, but first like 3 minutes of that game, they had like a 5-on-3 power play for like a full 2 minutes. I'm sitting there like, Jesus Christ, here we go again. And they ended up killing it off, but I was just waiting for that goal because like I just don't want to hear their bench. I just don't want to hear it. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut off.
Yes, I'd rather have Drew Doughty than Dougie Hamilton for $9.5 million.
Yes, I would too. It's not because of his analytics either. It's because of his actual game. And Doughty's the better defenseman. He's better in the locker room. He's more vocal. He's
more physical.
2 cups, and he's still fantastic. So yes, I would much rather have Drew Doughty than Dougie Hamilton.
Term matters too, though, because Hamilton's 28. I just don't think Hamilton's a true number one.
Yeah, right, but you'd still give Hamilton 8 years anyway. So
yes.
So what's the?
I'll say this: if the Flyers get Hamilton, I'm not going like, oh my god, why did we give him $8 million? Yeah. 8 years. Like I'll be like, sweet, we got one of the best defensemen in the league. Like I'm not. Again, that's why I'm making it clear that I think all of these guys are good. We're kind of nitpicking on them, and we tend to do that when it's like, you're trying to be selective. But if we get Seth Jones, great, I'm satisfied. And I like what people are saying, that they're like, hey, Seth Jones not that good. That's where the reason I like that is because when people talk about, oh, we got to move TK and Sanheim and a first, it's like, no, we're not. These are bad trades for us. Like, I don't want to move a top top line winger, which again, that's still TK's potential. I know everyone wants to throw him away. Like, I know Arvidsson's a good player, but I don't want Arvidsson over TK. I'd rather have TK. Let him work through what he's doing, you know?
Slavin. Could you imagine?
Yeah, Slavin would be great. So Hamilton, number one on, yeah, but Jacob Slavin is better defensively than Hamilton. Because Fermi is saying, Joel's saying that Hamilton is number one on the Canes, but like, yeah, but it's like a group effort there. Yeah, exactly. He's saying Slavin's untouchable. So who's the number one?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather have the guy who's better defense. And I'll say this again. I would almost bet you that Provorov is better than Hamilton defensively. I know people like think I'm crazy when I say this stuff.
If Slavin isn't an option, how is Hamilton the number one?
That's what I'm saying.
The number one defenseman is the untouchable.
That's what I'm saying, because they play defense first.
He's untouchable.
Unless you
protect him, like,
yeah, unless like the only way I'm trading Provorov is if I would love to try to get the young kid out of Buffalo. What's his name? Yeah. I think he'd be expensive as hell.
If he was the number one defenseman, he would have already been re-signed, and he wouldn't have hit the open market. So,
I don't think Hamilton sucks. I think that's a little strong.
Yeah, I don't think he sucks either.
He doesn't suck. That's what I'm saying. All of them are good. They're all good. And Joel, if he's a UFA, why would they let him? Why wouldn't they trade other assets and keep him around?
Right.
Why would other teams have moved him before?
Right.
Doesn't mean, again, at number one, it's all kind of bullshit what we're talking about here. But we're just talking about a guy who's like has it all. Like Shea Weber in his prime had it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Ryan Suter in his prime had it all. Roman Josi has it all.
If they don't want to pay him, he's not a number one defenseman. Their management's dumb.
I mean, their management is kind of silly. But again, they have other defensemen that they're banking on instead.
But,
you know what I mean?
But to his point, if he's a number one defenseman, he wouldn't be anywhere near this situation.
There's also the chance maybe he doesn't want to sign there.
That's another reason why it is. If he was a number one defenseman, he wouldn't be going to his fourth team by now.
But that's why I don't think Seth Jones is the number one defenseman either.
He's only been on two teams though.
But I'm saying he hasn't been established as a true. So is Provorov. Like they're being used as number one guys.
They're not,
right.
Yeah.
But it's so tough to like. Roman Josi took time to become Roman Josi. He was behind Suter and Weber. You know what I mean? He was behind these guys initially and then stepped into this role. Provorov has never had that luxury. Same with Seth Jones. I mean, for a while, like he has to be the guy. And the Werenski's, they had a good D. I'm not going to, they had a good core. That's like kind of like the Canes. They have a good core of guys. Like Slavin also has been super steady there, but he's under the radar guy, right? Like people don't give him the, but Hamilton did better without Slavin than Slavin did without Hamilton. That's interesting what Joel is saying here. Well, again, but did Slavin move the puck out of his own zone as well as Hamilton? Probably not. Right? Like Hamilton's got the offensive edge. And if anything, that's a great compliment. That's where we see a guy like Hamilton playing with a guy like Provorov. Quite frankly, Provorov has potential to do it all. Miro Heiskanen, that's another guy that I think most likely is
Klimberg.
But like Heiskanen, most likely, even without Klimberg, will be like a number one guy. And I think Maher, too. He's got the elite offensive game already.
But not now when they're 22 years old.
I would say Hughes even more flawed than the other guys, but yeah.
I think Maher is better than Hughes, but that's just me.
Yeah, no. Maher. I think right now Maher is better than all the young guys we just named.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's better than Heiskanen. That kid's insane.
Defensively, no, but offensively, there's no better. There's no better.
I think him moving the puck out of his zone compared to Maher is like, listen, I agree. It's close, but I think
that's a tough one for me.
I think Heiskanen is better.
Maher is an incredible skater. I see it differently, but I see Maher as being the offense. Like he's like the Erik Karlsson guy. That's how I see him. Like the guy who's going to just light it up.
Vancouver was terrible. Their whole game was off from goaltending.
I mean,
it was just bad.
Sounds like us. They also suffered from COVID just like we did. Which it's not. They
played regular season games when the playoffs were starting. You know how shit those players must have felt.
Yeah, and they're hampered by what's his name? They're just hampered with contracts. They have a lot of bad contracts there.
Schmidt is another guy we didn't even mention.
Yeah, but he has a no movement clause, so it'd have to be after expansion. Right. But it's possible. I don't think Tyler Myers is coming over here. I don't think he's good enough defensively to take that salary on. Look, the reality is I think if we get any of these guys that we're mentioning, like veteran dudes, we're better off. So like we don't need the best player available to get better. We need
just one that's going to fit.
Yes. And we don't just need him too, right? We have to bring in a contract that's good, that we can manage, right? So that's why if we get Jones, we have to move a guy like Sanheim because we're going to reallocate that money. Mm-hmm. Then we probably bring in another veteran, right, to fill in the D, right? And then that means we probably still have Ghost here too, you know? Or they move Ghost. It's possible they trade Ghost also. His contract's really not that bad, and he'll play on your top power play. Jamie Alexiak could be interesting. I see that one.
But that's like another Moore, and you already have a 6'7" defenseman.
No, Jacob's saying Hamilton's an older Sanheim. We'll see. I still believe in Sanheim's ability to be a top pairing guy.
Because we've seen stretches of that from Sanheim, regardless of the
exactly. The one thing Sanheim, he's not physical.
He played better.
Yeah,
he got better.
Well, Sanheim's he's not that physical. He's never been that physical.
Neither him nor Myers are, and they should be because of their size.
Myers is more physical, but I agree with you. Like, I think Myers will see more of a physical edge, where I don't know if we're going to see that much more of a physical edge from Sanheim. Like, I don't know if his ceiling, because he's got a very slight frame for a guy his size. But I think he's more offensive than we realize. Like, he's a phenomenal skater. Yeah. But he has a confidence issue. Like, when he gets down on himself, it's noticeable.
It's the same.
Provorov, exactly. Provorov, like, he's unwavering. Like, people can be down on him, but there's a reason he just plays and plays and plays and plays. He forgets it. If we move TK, I'll be highly, highly disappointed. I completely agree. The pace that he was on was Giroux-like. He went through a dip. He's not Claude Giroux. I'll make that clear. But the pace,
but that's it.
He might end up being a 90-point winger, like 80 to 90-point guy. I mean, he hit 70 points already. There's no reason to believe he can't. He's a young guy.
He didn't hit 70 yet. He was close, but he didn't 70.
He's 69. That's 70.
Was it 69?
Wasn't it 69? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it might have been 64.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was 69. 61, then I'm wrong. But I still think he has the potential to be an 80-point guy in the league. In the right situation. Mm-hmm. Maybe I was just thinking 69 because I have a dirty mind.
He did have 49 the year before, so you could have thought of it that way.
Well, that's again, you said that's probably what happened. You see the progress going from year to year. It's not that crazy for a player to take a dip when everybody plays poorly. That's also why I still give Patrick the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. Because the team played
24 goals.
Terrible. What?
3 years straight, TK had 24 goals.
Right, and he's a young player, so like I see him as a 30-goal guy. Like, again, taking a dip is not the end of the world.
Like, do you think? I think Allison could hit 30, 40 points this year.
I could see that. He's talented enough to do that.
You think Farabee hits 30 goals?
I think Farabee is a star player, and people aren't really aware. I think we're kind of still in denial about it. Like, I notice people are like, "Well, he's not going to be a top line guy." What?
He was streaky.
He's 20.
Right. He was streaky, but when he was streaky, it was like he would be like not score for a couple games. Then he got like a hat trick or a couple. I think he had 6 2-goal games or something like that.
Let me put it this way. At the same age, Simone Gagne was not.
No way.
Well, Simone Gagne was a 40-goal scorer. And I will say that at the same age, to me right now, Joel Farabee is a better player than Gagne was at the same age. So
I never saw Gagne, so I got to take your word for it.
And Gagne, again, that's why I compare him. And Gagne was a speedster. Farabee's not a speedster, but it's a two-way goal-scoring winger. Joel Farabee, that's funny. Here's the one thing that I hate about the playoffs. And again, this isn't like a knock on people necessarily, but every year the playoff team reveals themselves, right? And we see teams do well. And then everybody goes, oh, we have to change our team to be like this team who did well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the reality is the rules change every season.
Yeah,
the results.
Everybody did it this year. They're like, oh, Flyers got to be like Tampa.
Everybody wants to be like Tampa. They're just super talented. Right. But we do it all the time. When Boston won, everybody's like, oh, we got to be like Boston. The reality is, and I say it over and over again, you need a full team of good players. You need size because size always matters. Now speed is more important than ever, and you need to have toughness. Like that has always been the case. Like the recipe doesn't really change. It doesn't change from year to it drives me nuts that I'm watching, the media talk, and these are all smart dudes. Like I'm not bashing anything. A lot of these guys are ex-players, but I feel like they're just searching for stuff to talk about. So like they're just like they say these things where they're like, oh, well, you look at the way the team played and size matters. It always mattered. It always mattered. Size always mattered. Speed always mattered. Resiliency matters. Your goaltending matters. Like teams without this do not win a Stanley Cup. Like find them. Find me a team that won a Stanley Cup, not made it, won a Stanley Cup without these things. Like even the Edmonton Oilers who lost in the Stanley Cup final, I believe they lost, right? With Pronger. I think they lost that year.
2006.
Yeah. They like showed up. It was like a ragtag group with Pronger on there, but they still didn't have what it would take to win.
There for one season.
Yeah. Again, that's how good Pronger was in the locker room, dude. At Shea Weber. And look what they had. Like Shea Weber, like if Eric Stahl's available, I'd love him on the fourth line also. Like we need these guys in the room. It's like, people complain about veterans. We need these guys in the room. Like I talk about this all the time. Like in the work world, if you have a room of young guys, like it's not good. It's not, young guys can't rely on other young guys. They need older dudes around to be like, yeah, everything's all good.
Yeah.
Like Nate Thompson played every shift on this team for a reason,
Yeah.
He was always out there in the playoffs, like constantly.
Everybody wanted him gone when he was literally their number one center faceoff wise. Faceoff percentage wise, he was the best one in the playoffs.
It's not that
he won like over 60% of his draws.
Yeah. It's not that
people wanted out of the lineup. And then I was told that faceoffs didn't matter.
He would have played. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They always move the line over. The reality is the line doesn't move. Faceoffs matter. Size matters. Speed matters. Like you can say speed matters more than size, but tell me inside of the defensive zone that Connor McDavid was able to be effective in the offensive zone when he had to deal with big, strong defensemen. Who again, he's incredible player. The reason I use him is because he is incredible. But size matters as much as speed. The key is you can't just have size, right? You can get away with having speed over size, to your point, because if you can't move nowadays, you just can't play. If you're too slow, you'll be. So like I do see your point with speed over size, but at the end of the day, like size, if you have both together, the guy with size wins. Like that's kind of what it's about. Which is why a guy like Isaac Ratcliffe is very valuable. McDavid is incredible. McDavid is incredible against everybody. He's still got shut down in the playoffs against big defensemen. This is my point. It's like he is incredible. He's a generational player, right? Generational. Like I'm not knocking him. I'm saying that as a team overall, like first of all, most guys are not McDavid, right? In the playoffs, when time and space goes away, you need size to give you the benefit of speed. And a lot of times speed is emphasized by an execution of the team. So like while people are saying the Flyers need speed, that's not really the top of our list. Like I know that might frustrate people, but it's really not. They might not be the fastest team, but they have enough speed to compete.
They're a good enough cycle team where they don't need speed.
Yeah. What they need to do is execute better. And I've said it over and over again. I would not be surprised, to be honest with you guys, if this team doesn't do well again this year, that AV gets fired. Like a lot of people are like, oh, does AV want to be here? We might not want him here. And again, it doesn't make him a bad coach. He's a great coach. But I've seen a lot of great coaches fired.
Mike Keenan. How many teams did Keenan coach?
I mean, Laviolette. How many times did Laviolette get fired? He has a championship. His team was first place this year and got knocked out.
In 5.
Again, look, the right coach can take your team to the next level. And John Cooper failed at times. That's what I'm saying. It's like give and take. Craig Ruby was fired here and then won a championship. Time,
though. You can't. Can you really give them 2 years?
Who? Coaches?
AV. Like
he deserves more time.
You have to give AV credit. He hasn't had a full year.
Absolutely.
Hasn't a full 82 game season.
I'm not saying
fans, all that shit.
I'm not saying he deserves to be fired. Like he's not the main blame.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying in general. Like,
well, look at Mike Sullivan in Pittsburgh. Like they're not rushing to get rid of him.
Cooper, like Trotz.
Barry Trotz got fired.
No, he didn't get fired. He got he did get fired before, right?
Nashville,
yeah.
Mind you, after like 8 years, and they didn't really want to fire him. They were kind of just like, we got to change it up.
Yeah.
I bet you now they're going, we shouldn't have fired Trotz.
No,
well, he wasn't the problem.
Yeah. Well,
and again, AV, I don't think necessarily AV is the problem.
Yeah. What? I couldn't remember who their coach was after Trotz.
AV's a good coach. I mean, if you say he's not, I mean, he's proved it. He's gone to the finals with like several different teams. Like he's a good coach, you know, but it's all about, again, like they talk about the mix. That's the one thing that drives me nuts. People are like, the Flyers don't have the right mix. Then how did they have the right mix the year before? It's like, there's really not that much different.
Well, we've said that. We've said that they don't have the right mix.
Why? I just think they're missing a player or two. Like, what does that mean, not the right mix? Does it mean you want to change the whole team up?
No, I think that would mean you get rid of a few guys.
But getting rid is not really a benefit. It's more of adding, you know? Like why? Like we're going to get rid of like Connor Bunneman. What?
Then why are they going to get rid of Voracek?
Because he makes $8 million a year, and they need his cap space. What?
Get rid of JVR.
I think they were considering him too.
I mean,
again, that's just what's reported in the media.
Right. I mean, it doesn't have to be Voracek.
That's what if JVR gets taken in expansion, then I don't know if they're as eager to get rid of Voracek. Because all of a sudden now they're down a winger. And unless they're going to add somebody. What?
It's $20 million in cap space JVR goes. That's if no RFA signs before expansion.
Again, Jake led this team in points last year.
Again.
I like what he's saying here. Not it's an excuse. Yeah. Honestly, that's you're not getting rid of your whole team. It's like it's not like you have like the wrong mix. You just need like Tampa Bay. They went out and they're like, we need a little more edge to our game. So they went out and got edge. Like we have everything else. So just get some edge in here. Right?
Yeah.
Again, we have the right pillars set up, but we're short. If we had Matt Niskanen this past year, the issues wouldn't have been as noticeable. But we probably, on paper, we're still not good enough to win the Stanley Cup.
The thing is that they were probably noticeable in 1920, but they didn't get scored on.
Well, we played much better defense as a team.
Yeah, but there were times where they were terrible day with that team, like very, very small stretches,
small.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
This was like all year we were bad at defense.
I know.
This past year.
My point. That's my point, is that it was small, but they didn't necessarily get scored on as much because, well, either A, they recovered, or B, Hart was in position. Hart or Moose, because they were both fantastic that year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also a compiling problem, is that Hart didn't rescue the team, and Elliott had some stretches where he played well, but he also wasn't like lighting the world on fire. You know, you combine that with the way the team was playing defense, which was horrendous, just horrendous team defense this year. Just really... From top down, I'm talking about forwards included, like just bad.
Their back check was the biggest problem.
Their what?
Back check.
It was terrible. Back checking, the back doors were all open. It was bad this year.
You get busted their seams on a fucking tortoise, dude.
And
you get a tortoise over their blue line.
And I'll give people a little insight. I just got off the phone with Craig Eagles not too long ago, scout. He's doing some cool stuff. He actually just interviewed Phil Myers tonight. I had a tweet out if you guys didn't see it earlier. He was playing tonight. And he spent some time talking to Phil Myers, and they were talking about his injury. So I'm interested to see what Craig, he's going to tell me soon. I'll share it out. We got a good relationship with Craig, so I'll share it out when it's ready. But odds are Phil Myers is probably dealing with injuries as well. Like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So even if half of the things went wrong, you know what I mean? we would have
literally every fucking thing went wrong. The team doesn't lose 9 games and not one thing doesn't go wrong.
Yeah. Every single thing went wrong for us.
The
goaltending collapsed
7 times.
It's literally Joel Farabee was the highlight of the season.
And Allison at the end of it.
That was it was like the last 10 games. And mostly in games that didn't even matter. Like I saw even AV was kind of bashing it. He's like, I don't put too much stocks into the games that don't matter at the end. Because how hard were the veterans really playing at the end? Especially the teams that weren't making the playoffs either. They kind of let the foot off the pedal. It's a little more like preseason, Not that it is preseason. I'm not saying it is. It definitely matters. I love Wade Allison. Let's make that clear. I am super excited about him. And I think he looked great. All right, let's get close to wrapping this up because I'm already 30. I always do this every time with you, dude. I tell you, I'm like, I'm done in 60. And I'm like at 90 minutes. I'm like, oh, damn it. What do we have? Yeah, well, Bobby, that's the thing. That's why I don't think this way. Like we've said that
before, though.
I say the same thing every year, though, and people will like.
No, we've literally said the right mix.
What, me, you?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say the right mix. All I said is that they need a top pairing defender. That's what everybody else has been saying. I don't say top right mix. What does that even mean? Mix of what? What more do you guys want? That's what I don't know. Like, okay, yeah, we need another physical edge. What is that? A mix of all of the team? No, we need. Can we get a Blake Coleman in here? Can we get another guy who does that? Can we get him and then a defenseman? That's not like. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about St. Louis when they went out and won the cup, they added like 6 dudes in the offseason, didn't they? Pat Maroon might be a guy I would like over here, though I don't know if he'd want to come back to Philly because of the way they moved him.
A decade ago?
Yeah.
Holmgren's not even here.
Holmgren's always here, my friend. Dude, from talking to Derek about how Holmgren is, I have a feeling that guy would punch you in the face if you say the wrong word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, what else do we have here? Hold on, what's this one? If you're being paid $8 million a year, you have to contribute better than what you did. I understand the veteran leadership and all that. Some stars in the league get paid that amount of money to do way more. I mean, are you talking about Voracek? If you're talking about Voracek, you got to realize when he signed the contract, first of all, he was a top 3-point producer in the league. And he was a top 5 right winger in the league too. So yes, I agree that he probably is overpaid, but he's not overpaid by that much.
Like $2 million?
I would say $8 million. If JVR is getting 7 and he's never even hit the production level that Voracek.
If JVR is getting 7, then Jake's contract is a steal.
He's a $7 million player.
Yeah.
6.5 because he's at the end of his career. But JVR is overpaid too. JVR is not worth $7 million a year.
He's not even
just like Kevin Hayes is not worth $7 million a year. That's the problem with UFAs. That's what I'm saying. At least Voracek we know Voracek, Giroux, and Simmons carried this team for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Nathan McKinnon deserves a big pay raise, and
he'll get 11 million. If Dowdy's getting 11 million, he's getting 11 million.
And again, you have to remember, Jake Voracek, when he signed that contract, was one of the best players in the league.
Yeah,
it's not like he's
80 points twice since he signed that deal.
Yeah, and that was when scoring was down in the league. He was dominant. The problem is, and this is a lesson learned, and this is where I do agree with you, Joel, is that if you are not a center, you do not deserve as much money as a center. And that's where Nathan McKinnon is going to be worth more. And that's why Mitch Marner should not be paid what Austin Matthews is. And they're dumb for giving him that money. Even though he's great. He's a great young player. But that's because of taxes, though. People don't ever talk about that. Tampa Bay is able to put that team together because they don't have income tax. And it's not the only reason. Don't get me wrong. It's not the only reason. That's why players want to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
Right? Notice the pattern here. Florida gets the best goalie option, even though Bob didn't do it for him. They have the best coach. If you don't have income tax, that is leverage That's why I don't like salary cap. They need to come up with an adjustment for that. I think it's a mistake. And it hurts Canadian teams too, because their taxes are even higher than American teams. And that's why Toronto had to give them so much money.
It's Vegas, Tampa, Dallas, and the Islanders. The 4 teams that don't have state tax.
Yeah. All right. Kyle Palmieri's a guy I'd be interested, by the way, if he's available. If it depends on what we lose, but I like him a lot. How do you think Cam York, Wade Allison, Frost, and others will be in training camp? I think Cam York is going to be a stud, and I think there's a good chance he's going to make the team right out of camp.
Yeah, he makes the team out of camp.
And I think already he makes somebody expendable. I don't know what's going to happen with RD. We have too many guys, but Cam York is he's already ready to play 15 minutes a night, but they might just wait anyway, because if Ghost is around, they're not going to rush to put York in there. If Ghost is gone, I don't know. He's already ready. You guys saw him at the end of the year. He's too good for the AHL. It's easy. The AHL is easy for him. So he's a world-class prospect, just like Cole Caulfield.
Games. Yeah, if he starts in the AHL, he'll play like 5 games and then get called up.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's too good. He's too good. Like you saw Farabee barely played in the AHL, and it's also a level of maturity that most young players don't have. Cam York has it. I think Wade Allison is already penciled into the lineup for next year. His only reason he wasn't, we didn't even talk about Tanner Lazinski. I'm just thinking about it now. He's injured for a while. Lazinski probably will be an NHL player next year too, but he's got to recover from his injury, and he has injury problems. Has Wade Allison, if he can prove to be healthy, he's penciled into the top 9 as it is, and I would say it's also why Jake Voracek or JVR and all that becomes expendable. I think Morgan Frost is still a high-value offensive. You talk about speed, he is all speed. He's a great playmaker, and as long as he's healthy, he'll be explosive. I have a lot of faith in him. Sorry, do you want to go give your opinions?
Yeah, I mean, as for York, I've said it before. I think he makes a team out of camp. Allison, same thing. I think he's already penciled in. I think if JVR goes, he's going to replace his production. He's probably going to take a spot on the power play too. Unless I think Allison should be in the bumper, but that's just me.
I would agree.
Frost, if Frost is ready, and I think he will be for camp.
I would even try Allison in the. Sorry to cut you off, but I'd even try him in the slot.
That's
I think fair. Oh, sorry. Well, I thought you were talking about around the boards.
No, the bumper play in the slot, like point for Tampa.
I didn't know that was called a bumper.
Yeah, it's a bumper. It's a bumper play.
Really? I never heard that referred.
No?
No. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
No,
it's fine.
Yeah.
We agree, so it's irrelevant. I'm arguing with you, but you said something I agree with. Go ahead.
No, Frost, I think if Frost is ready from his injury, it's 100% healthy. I don't see any reason why he can't play top 6.
At least top 9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He can't. He's not going to be a bottom line player.
Put him with Gene Konechny again. See what he does. I mean, you saw Coots had
we have a numbers. We have a numbers problem in the offense. This is why I think a trade for sure is coming.
Yeah.
Like, look at the names we're naming. Like, what are you going to do with these guys?
No, I'll tell you after. No, I agree. I think for the most part, I can't. I just can't look at this team without them not making a move where they have to get rid of Winger. I just can't.
It's just there's too many players. Like, think about the guys.
There's too many wingers.
There's too many wingers. And like, if people are talking about with the mix with that sense, where you're like, you have too much at one position, but like that's not necessarily a problem. You trade. This is why we have so many young assets. It's like you trade, and I would agree that it seemed to me like the Flyers were holding back on trading some of these guys, but it's time. Yeah. It's time to do something. Mm-hmm. Phil Myers is definitely expendable for the right price. I mean, without a doubt, he might be the guy moved.
He's 24. He can still grow into his game.
Again, if you want to get a 28-year-old defenseman, this is the type of guy you move. He's signed for the right deal. I don't think they're rushing to sign him, but either him or Sanheim could be expendable. I think definitely Myers more than Sanheim, but we'll see. What do we have?
Training camp.
What was it?
It's like September, right?
September. Yeah, end of September.
Probably beginning. The start date for the season is the October 10th to 15th in that range.
The 25th. No, it's before. Should be mid-September, right? Mid to late.
It's usually like the 14th around there.
Yeah, so it should be between there to the 20th, probably is my guess.
Preseason games through late September, early October.
Yeah. York potential better than Pro V? I would say no, but give it time. I will say this. I do think York's potential is true top pairing.
I think he could be as good as Suter.
Yeah, he reminds like a Ryan Suter type,
Leash.
I still think Provorov has more to grow. Jackson Cates, I don't know too much about him. I don't think he's going to be an NHL player next year, but
I think
he's going to be a good age. Yeah, he could be a swing guy. I think he played in the NHL because of his age more than anything last year.
Yeah, they signed him because he was 23.
I think his brother is still better. Like Noah is still better. So
yes.
100%. Where? Oh, okay. Reverse bumper. Kucherov put a target. I don't know. You think so?
I don't think he cares.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think anybody cares about what he said, and I don't think NHL players care about what he said. I think they were probably
jealous of him at the moment.
Yeah, he's drunk. He's excited.
Yeah,
and quite frankly, he's right. He was right. They were acting like super excited about winning one game. They're 3 games down against the best team in the league.
Yeah,
he's allowed to talk shit. It's sports, He didn't. Though I will say I don't blame the Canadians for being upset, like the fans.
No, it's not like they're gonna do anything.
No, I don't think. I think it's just like he's talking shit. It's athletes; they're allowed to talk shit. All right, we'll go one more here, and then let's call it a night. Did we go over BS? Jake wants out reporting. Yeah. What's up, buddy? This is my friend. I don't know if Jake wants out. I doubt he wants out. Actually, Chris, you can. I don't want to take your story away, but you can tell. Why don't you tell him what happened to you?
So today? Today I did a video on Voracek and my whole opinion on why I don't think he has to go for cap space. I think there's other options which we talked about. It could be JVR. It could be get rid of Hag too if you wanted for cap. You could get rid of Ghost, whatever. But as I did that and I put out the video, tweeted it out, a couple minutes later I checked my phone. Voracek followed me on Twitter. That was probably one of the coolest things I ever have seen, honestly, on social media. He's literally the only NHL player that follows me.
And just so everybody's aware, he blocks everybody by default.
He blocks literally everyone by default. Guy only followed 70 people, and I'm one of them. It's kind of insane to think about. But that most likely means he saw the video or he saw the tweet and probably watched it and said, you know what? Does
that sound like a guy who wants out? Does it sound like a guy who's searching? Is that a guy searching for Twitter to seeing why people are talking shit on him? Because he led the team in points.
Right.
This is why I don't get along with Philadelphia media well.
I know. And that's the thing. Like, if the guy, he had to have seen my video about it. There's no way he didn't. He would have just followed me if he didn't see it. I mean, I literally, again, I have his jersey hanging up on my wall. I have a fucking fridge magnet of a picture of me and him when I got that jersey signed. His bobblehead's on the shelf. I have a figurine on that shelf. I have 2 more jerseys of his in that closet. Like,
Jake the Snake.
He's been my hockey number my whole life.
10th in points at Flyers all time, I think. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
and then you wonder why he gets $8 million a year.
All time in assists.
Yeah, it's like that's why he got paid. That's why he got paid.
Right.
The guy's an assist machine, and he's big and strong. And he was one of the best right wingers in the game.
Remember, he's lazy. He doesn't shoot enough on the power play.
Yeah. He misses the net, which is the one thing that drives me nuts about him. But he's never been a goal scorer. If you look at his juniors numbers, he was a 20 goal scorer in juniors too. He's never been. Let's end on this. Yeah, Jake might be watching the stream. Let's hope. Let's hope. Jake, we love you. Yeah. I do love him.
I love you too.
Yeah. Let's end on this one. I think this is a good question, and we're at 1 hour and 45, so I already went way over what I said I was going to do.
Right. We haven't done a show in 2 months. Who cares?
Yeah, we're getting it in. Thoughts on Robert Hagg on the roster? You want to go first, and then I'll.
If they could move Hagg for cap, sure. I don't think Hagg had the best year last year. I thought he was good the year before. But last year he was not good, and I legitimately don't think there's a single spot in the lineup if they're going to add defensemen for him.
Yeah, I think it's a tough spot. I mean, right now I'd say he's number 7 going into next season. He could potentially be. Yeah, he could. I mean, he could be taking an expansion potentially. Again, he's still relatively young, so I don't want to say he's like done evolving at all. But I just don't see Robert Haig's future as like a top 4 guy. And but maybe he'll stay. It's honestly tough. You like kind of forget about him at this point.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You know, again, we have Ghost. Like, what are we doing with these guys? There's so many players on this team. Like, again, I don't think it's a wrong mix, but there are too many guys in certain roles.
Like, if they, I know we're going over, but if they add like Jones or Larson, just say for shits and giggles, Ghost doesn't have a spot.
He's getting traded. I mean, if that happens, I mean, you expect defensemen to get traded. Yeah. Hey, you could trade Haig. I mean, if you have to.
Right.
You wouldn't get too much for him, but you get like a fifth round pick for him, probably third round, maybe even a third round pick for him. Depending on the time of year, like for the playoffs or whatever, playoff run, you get a third round pick for Robert Haig. I don't think the team thinks about play. Like, look at the Lawton situation. Like, I even thought Lawton would be let go. I thought he was going to be traded, and like they kind of just let him go. Yeah. They signed him long term. Like, they like their guys. Teams like their players. Yeah. If you fit their mold and you have good work ethic, good energy, good locker room guy, fit in with the group, you know, a lot of times they want to get a contract done, you know, until you age yourself out. That seems to be like the biggest measurement is like age, unless you're Claude Giroux, which, again, without Giroux this past year, this team ends up a lot lower in the standings, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He drove this team. He willed them. All right. Any last sayings? And then we got to cut the stream, guys. Sorry, we're at an hour and 45 minutes.
Nope, I got nothing else.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you, everybody, for being so engaged. We're going to keep these going. Chris and I have been talking about this. So I'm going to Israel for a while, for like a month. So our times are going to be weird. So I don't know how well live.
7 hours ahead?
Yeah, I don't know how well live stream will do. 7 hours, yeah. So I think we'll do an episode together of getting gritty with it when I'm there. But we will be doing them for next season. Like, we're going to keep these going.
And it'll probably be weekly. By that time, we'll probably have a certain date of like consistent like weekly show of the same day.
And you got to start college, so we got to figure that out too.
Yeah,
you got to figure out your college schedule too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we'll figure that out when it comes.
The good thing about college is it's irrelevant. No, I'm just kidding. All right, cool. Anything else, Chris?
Nope. Good show.
Good show. Agreed. Yep. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And honestly, if you guys can share this out, it definitely helps us.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, like retweet us.
I know a lot of people on here. Some of my Instagram followers, like that's Aaron right there. Joel Fairmoon.
Yeah.
Flyers Car Collector, that's another one. There's some others too, but yeah. If you don't mind, I would really appreciate it. And if you guys have anything else, Smooch the Dog, it's a great one. But yeah, anything else, just share it, and then we appreciate it because it helps us, and you know, obviously it's support from you guys, so we love it.
Cool. Yeah, well said, Chris. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, definitely come back, and remember, don't panic.